I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour.
Protecting the energy supplies that keep our homes warm, innovating for a more sustainable and resource-efficient world, and why more women are needed for the future of engineering. I'm Fran Scott, maker and pyrotechnician, and these are just some of the things I'll be exploring that are making a world of difference in our new series of the Process Automation Podcast from ABB. Tap the button to listen and follow the Process Automation Podcast now.
Hey guys, happy Friday and welcome back to the News du Jour. I have had such an unusual week for you guys this week. I think we started out with an episode. Well, first we started out with a Monday with no episode because it was Memorial Day and I forgot to tell you guys. Then Tuesday we had like an episode that went over time, I think. And then here towards the end of the week, we've had a really short episode. So this is super unusual. Usually we hit right in between that 10 and 15 minute marker. That has not been the case. Today was a super slow news day. So what I'm planning to do, we do have too many stories for you guys. And then one story that I thought was super important to come across your radar. So I definitely want to tell you this one story. But then to kind of round things out a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and repost an old bonus episode that we had recorded just for our patrons. And we're going to be recording some new episodes for our patrons. But I wanted to go ahead and post this because I feel that it sheds some light on the backdrop of the Russian war in Ukraine and kind of like Russia's history between like the czars and what's going on now. It kind of connects those dots. So anywho, if you're interested, go ahead and dive into that bonus episode, or you can save it for over the weekend. But I wanted to make sure a couple stories did make it across your view today because they are kind of important. So first up, the House passed the bill to raise the debt ceiling, you know, the one that the Republicans were kind of pissed off about. They went ahead and passed it. But this deal pretty much ensures that we will have to have this same conversation 2 years or so down the line, because without a cutback in spending, it will always spin out of control. So we're going to be having this same talk in about 2 years. Talk to you then. And for our second mini story, a mother and child were killed by Russian drones in the most recent airstrike. So our heart is broken that this bloodshed continues, but because these horrific things continue to happen day by day, that is all the more reason to jump into our bonus episode that we uploaded for you guys. And that way you can kind of understand some of the backdrop that went on before Putin's rule. And for our one story today, Oklahoma Supreme Court strikes down an anti-abortion law. So this is not a story that just applies to those of us who live in Oklahoma. This is nationwide news. You know, everybody was reporting on this from New York Times to pretty much every news outlet. And it's a big deal. Over the past year, Oklahoma has passed laws that limit access to abortions in our state. They are very similar to that of Texas. And as of Wednesday of this week, the Supreme Court of Oklahoma struck down 2 of those laws. Now, there's still a law in place that was passed back in 1910 that bans most abortions unless they are necessary to save the life of the mother. This law was obviously not in effect because Roe versus Wade was in effect. But once Roe versus Wade was overturned, that 1910 law did go back into effect. But the most recent laws that were struck down this week were sort of those vigilante justice type laws that were passed in Texas first, where private citizens could seek out abortion patients and providers and essentially sue them in civil court. These laws did have exceptions, though, for medical emergencies, quote unquote. However, as we know, this caused doctors to be worried that they would have to defend their decision-making process in court should some random civilian try and sue them. And that put a lot of women at risk during medical emergencies. Doctors shouldn't have to hesitate in those instances to save someone's life. They should spend every second they have trying to save these women and not weighing the price of legal fees in those critical seconds. And that's exactly how the Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled. They said that the language of these laws was just far too murky, that a woman should not have to defend why an abortion would save her life in court, that a doctor should not have to defend their reasoning in court. They didn't like that women had to explain the medical need. So they voted this way, 6-3, to strike down these two laws. Celebrations took place all over the state, and women will most certainly be safer because of this decision. Onward and upward. And that for today is the news du jour. Like I mentioned, there will be a bonus episode played. It should be in your feed right after this one. So happy listening and have a great weekend. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "Nothing is easier than denouncing the evildoer, and nothing is more difficult than understanding them." If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the news du jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from
Protecting the energy supplies that keep our homes warm, innovating for a more sustainable and resource-efficient world, and why more women are needed for the future of engineering. I'm Fran Scott, maker and pyrotechnician, and these are just some of the things I'll be exploring that are making a world of difference in our new series of the Process Automation Podcast from ABB. Tap the button to listen and follow the Process Automation Podcast now.